What is up, everybody? It's me, Duke Farley, back at it again here on Lost at Sea. And tonight we have the pleasure of having, the creator of Ascendance on to talk a little bit about this episode and maybe some things to come. Nicole, how are you? It's been a minute since we've spoke. How have you been? What's been going on with you?
2023 has been shitty, Duke. So let's just move on and not talk about it because 2024 is almost here. It's gonna be better. It has to be.
It has to be better. Something that has not been shitty in 2023 though is Ascendance Live Season 4. What a joy to be watching this season. How have you been enjoying watching the episodes, having seen it play out in real life, but as it comes to the screen?
We really were worried before season 4. And I kind of talked with you a little bit about expectations were really high. Season 3 really brought it. They were there to play. And I really was concerned going in, with the duo twist land. How would people perceive it? As you know, season 4, the org was duo. So we kind of wanted to do a little throwback to the org with the duos twist. We also had a tight turnaround with casting. So we knew that allowing, some alumni to come back would help with that. But we were just not confident in this cast because season 3 was just a lot of really out there personalities, a lot of spotlight people, and we didn't see that in the casting of this season, and we were really worried the gameplay wouldn't be there. And boy, I mean, I don't know if you agree yet, but this season just brings it every round. These people came to play from night one, and they don't stop playing until that final vote is cast. And I just could have been more pleased with this cast. They really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, you mentioned a throwback to, season 4, the org where you guys did duos. Was there any returnee over the course of the season, over the course of the episodes that have aired that you're like, okay, that was the right choice to have them back? That like they're killing it compared to what they did in their previous.
you know um we weighed out who we wanted to bring back, and we really wanted to kind of balance. I don't want to say robbed because everyone feels robbed in some way or another, but people where there were circumstances maybe that if something had went a little different, things would have changed. We wanted to see if people could change their gameplay, and I think so far you're seeing in all of the alumni that they're learning from their mistakes. Adam, God love him, went out to smoke because he was confident and secure in his spot in the game. And you're seeing him say, I'm not taking any round for granted. I'm not sitting back and waiting for things to happen. Michael said night one, there were untouchables for me. And you're seeing this season, even his own partner, he's saying, I get what you want, Eric, but, this is what I need for my game. I think we're seeing everyone looking back at what they did wrong and trying to either course correct or try a different way, and that's all I can ask for, right? I mean, there's only going to be one winner at the end of the day, and whether that's a newbie or an alumni, you can only play the cards that are dealt to you, and I think they're all doing a really good job of learning either from their own games or even from the newbies. I think you see them looking at what did these returnees and what did other players do wrong, and how can I address that. So when I say they're coming to play, they're coming to play, and they're also kind of just stepping the game up. They're stepping a game up for next season.
Nicole, there was a time when I was discussing, I think it was with Scott Link a couple weeks ago, where Ascendance has this format where, the captains and the team picking are such a huge thing that separates Ascendance from most games, where you see a lot of people strategically set up teams to target specific players. And we were kind of struggling with in the duo aspect how you can set it up. Do you think that that was lost this season during the team picking portion at all with how the duos format is this season?
I don't think very many people over the course in the org, definitely people had 24 hours to think of it. They had a list in front of them. We saw a lot of that in the org. In the live game, we are not, because of the time crunch, in my opinion, seeing that much at all. A lot of times when you do confessionals, I'll say, I'd say 90% of the time when I say, what was your strategy in picking the teams? The answer is I didn't have one, or I was nervous, or thought I had an idea and thoughts went out of my head. So a lot of times I think that strategy isn't there. If they were going to use the strategy this season, I think the targeting is even easier because if we'll use Billy and Grace because they're out. If I want to target Billy, I, since we're splitting partners away from each other, you're never going to have that vote for Billy and Grace on that team. She's always going the other way. So if Billy's your target, it doesn't matter because she's on the other side. So you can then pick the next people that are going to go. And since you're picking, with your partner, you should have already discussed that. Now, did it happen? You'll have to ask some of the players in their exit interviews if they ever talked about what their strategy for team picks were. I think the other thing that you see in our game is a lot of people read a lot of things into it. You saw Rachel even say today, "Oh, last picked." A lot of times you're just last picked because you aren't in front of people's face. Sometimes you're last picked because maybe you're a target. Sometimes you're last picked because you don't have any feelings the other way. Same thing with first pick. Sometimes I might pick you first because I know I want you out. Sometimes I might pick you first because you're my closest ally. So I think people read into a lot of stuff when in reality, the captains unfortunately are not thinking a whole lot into it any season. I would love to have a poll, but I can count one confessional I have, and it's actually Eric's. I think I put on the TikTok that he did have a strategy picking his team. Most of the people so far this season have not.
Speaking of Eric, big big episode here. Obviously, Eric is the one that is voted out, back and forth. Another thing that I've been talking about all throughout, the coverage of the season is Eric's his strategy with his duo, Michael. He seems to be the like one of the only, if not the only person that is vocal in his confessionals about not liking what Michael's been doing for a couple of the rounds. Was that surprising to you that not many other people were, questioning their partner more? Seems like everybody else was kind of kumbaya.
Especially to date, the mystery partners, you've not seen them really go against each other. It's kind of been a love fest, and those mystery partners were randomly drawn the night when the teams arrived. So there was no planning on our part going into it of, oh, we think these people will get along or they won't. It was just, you signed up for a mystery, here's what you got. I do think that we were a little surprised. We were waiting to see if after round two, people realize, oh, if my partner goes home, I might get a round of safety. We were wanting to see if anybody was going to be willing to take that cut and push for their partner to go. You do see a little bit of that strategy in the double where Jim does say, Chris, I love you, but I think my partner's going. And if I'm going to pick a partner, Christopher would be great. And so there was a little bit of thought in voting Chris Yu out there. It wasn't his own partner voting him out, but it was some of the house saying, "Hey, I realize I'm voting out someone that could become my partner." We haven't really seen Stacy do a lot of that when she's been in the votes of kind of handpicking her partner. So that's something we are interested in seeing kind of going into the season, how the new partners would form and what the strategy would be. So I guess, you keep your enemies close. So even if you don't like your partner, maybe you shut up and and stay kumbaya to their face.
Yeah. A huge thing that's happened these past two seasons of in Ascendance is the buyback.
Mm-hmm.
We see AJ come back here in season 3. We see Chris G come back. Um, I wanted to ask you the way that Chris G comes back, where nobody kind of sees him, like literally sees him. Was that, what do you think was more fun to watch? The AJ coming through the front doors, or Chris G kind of being like a mystery person coming back as everybody trickled in from that challenge?
So it was interesting to see, people timidly walking in the door, trying to find a face that they did not recognize. The first few people that took their mask off, like Michael and Eric, they saw Chris as soon as they're coming up the hill together. But you see that good shot of Rachel coming in and like walking into an empty house. She doesn't know where anybody is. She doesn't even know who she's looking for. And then she comes face to face with someone who just called her and her partner out on their exit. So there is no preparation there for her. She's smacking in the face of someone that she might have beef with and she's not sure. So we liked kind of turning that on its head a little bit. AJ coming in the door, you did see Josh last season go, "Oh no," to the camera. There was that reaction. But while the chaos was happening, he had time to think through his thoughts, right? Rachel did not have that ability. She walked down the stairs and she was confronted with hug him and make amends. So I thought that was fun. I also it just worked as a really good tie into we're at an odd number. You're the person with safety for the round. So giving him that time to get reintegrated and kind of have those conversations was really helpful. I am interested to see how that round would have played out if Grace hadn't kind of reached her max. I have suspicions that potentially Eric and Michael would have been in danger that round, just based on some of the confessionals and some of the things that we've seen the players say in the chat. So I think Chris G probably wouldn't have impacted that vote a whole lot either way. But the drama of the players just being nervous really was more interesting to me, even if it all didn't get filmed.
Right. This episode, there was a scene where the people who are doing the calling in the team challenge walk out and Chris says there's a pendant somewhere on a table. Can you give me a little bit more clarification on how that all played out?
Yeah, so it's very important to me that the information is on a need to know basis from our production team. So my production team never knows if powers are out or where they are. And we don't tip them off. So there was a camera up in the corner you saw filming the screaming.
Yeah.
That table behind them, there had been a pendant there since midnight the night before. So it is the pendant that Aaron walked out of the game with that had expired at final 11. It got rehidden overnight. Fun fact about that, I went down in my swimsuit and put the floating pendant in the pool about midnight, came out of it with some trash out of the pool house and passed Josh Duenas. And he's like, "Can I go in there?" Meaning the pool house. I'm like, "Sure, just don't leave any trash." And I go upstairs and throw the trash away, get the second pendant that Aaron had been voted out with, walk out my door, hide it under the table, walk in the kitchen door, and pass Josh Duenas and pick up some more trash on the kitchen counter. And I'm like, "Quit leaving trash around." And we made a joke about being cleaned up. But Josh Duenas literally was power hunting that entire night, and was within 60 seconds of me hiding both of those pendants, was right there. He ended up getting one of them, but he's like a power magnet. I think wherever powers are, he is. But that laid there all night. So it just happened to, as all the players walked out the door, some of them went down the stairs and some of them stayed. Chris just happened to look down at the base of that table and see it. Christopher had already saw it. And he was going for it. And I said, "Christopher, your spot's here." And Christopher is such a polite person that he
Oh,
said, "Oh, okay." And he turned around and stood in his place and then just kept staring at the pendant. And Chris G pretended to tie his shoe and grabbed it really fast. So Christopher did see it. And then Chris G proceeded to pull it out of his pocket like this multiple times to try to show me, because we tell them night one, if you find a power sometime, let production know. For future players, don't let us know in front of, you don't have to tell us in front of the other players. I had to go, "I see it, it's good." But he was very brave in that moment because he snatched it. I mean, what did he have to lose at that point, right? I mean, he didn't know it expired at final 11. They grab it, right? And I think it ended up working out for Christopher to have that like eye to eye contact. They did make a kind of "I see you" kind of thing. So I think that's I think is a good bonding moment, even if Christopher didn't get a second pendant.
Nicole, are you saying that in future seasons people need to be watching out for your every move to see where you're hiding these powers?
They do watch out for my every move. One of my favorite parts of last season was I just happened to go downstairs Saturday night, just to see what everybody was doing. Hi, everything. And Aaron and Grace come running out of the Coliseum in their pajamas. And Aaron's like, "Why are you here? Why are you down here? What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just standing here." She goes, "Is there going to be a challenge? Why are you in the basement?" She was just she was in a dead sleep and heard my voice in the basement and flew up out of her bed just to see what was going on. So it is hard for me sometimes because only the three of Matthew, Maddie, and I ever know where the powers are hidden. We have them scheduled a time frame to go out, etc. So we do have to do some manipulation. So stop watching me so closely, is what I'm saying. Leave me alone and let me live, or there will be no powers hidden.
Um, you mentioned Aaron, and I think I got the answer to this question yesterday, but or last week. But say Aaron were to have won the battle back and got back into the game, she would not have been able to take that pendant that she took out with her back in.
No. So whenever you leave to go to the vote out villa, we have a player handler that asks you to relinquish any of your things. So whenever she would have gone to unpack and move back in, she would have been asked to relinquish anything that she had. If she had kept it and hidden, like if had kept it hidden from us, since we knew that she possessed it already, when she went to play it, we would have told her that this was a dead pendant. So even if she had kept it on her, the pendant no longer has any power. The reason we take them back, and some of the players, we're never going to give this to you as a trinket to take home. If you want to buy one, go to Katie Tedesco Art on Etsy. You can buy them directly from her after the seasons are over in your color. We keep them. That's our only memento. Each of us take a pendant home. Additionally, we can't send a pendant or a power over to the vote out villa, not knowing if you might hide it somewhere yourself, just to be funny or think you're helping a friend or whatever. So we whatever you have, just for fairness of the game, we need to take back. After the season, if it's the cards, we give you the cards back. You're welcome to take those home. But during the game being on, we just can't have those out floating around. You are still on the acreage. There's 17 acres, but you're not that far from us. You can see the prod house across the driveway. So they come to all the challenges. We can't risk you sticking it on the table up on the porch while you're watching the next challenge. So if she had kept it for some reason and tried to play it, if she'd gotten back in or given it away, we knew that they had the final 11 expiration. We mark them all so we know who has what power. So when she played it, he would have checked and said, "This power, this is a dead power." We went through it in the fire like Jeff, but it would have been a
Yeah.
good TV moment.
Yeah. So Aaron, if she wanted to have given that power back to Josh, she would have had to do it before she actually left the area where
Yes.
the votes take place
Yes. And it says
publicly.
on there that to will it, you must publicly present this power at the elimination area. So once you go down the stairs, you're done. It's out of play. And we did the same in the org. Once you leave the main chat, it's considered you're out of the game. You can no longer transfer powers. If for some reason people are MIA, we would sometimes honor that. But in a live game, there's no reason. You don't have anything else going on between now and the bottom of the stairs. So
Yeah.
we also, I mean, we don't babysit that. I mean, if you have a pendant, you saw Kira and she talked to you about it. You know, she was really blindsided when she went home and she kind of forgot she had a power.
Yeah.
And you know, that's just kind of sometimes how it happens. I mean, that's her allies. That's sometimes a risk they make. They can either ask her for it or let her walk out the door with it.
Yeah. Interested to see what Aaron says there. Still have to schedule her exit interview. We were going to do it the other night, but did not go through with that. But we
I
will hear it.
think what you will hear her say, I don't know if this is the rumor that was going around to production, that there was an agreement that she would hide it. And so they thought that she could hide it after she got out and he could refind it. And we did see Josh after the countdown frantically searching the house. But there was no pendant because we took it because that's our job is to take it. But it wasn't them trying to skirt the rules. They genuinely thought that's something they could do because we do tell you night one, if you want to hide something publicly, go for it. If someone else finds it, you know, too bad. The problem is she would have been hiding a dead power. So they did have a plan and they really thought that it was going to work out, but unfortunately, that's how the cookie crumbles. Man, again, still good TV.
Great TV, great TV. Interested to see what she says. If that's the case, that'll be a fun little story to hear on the exit interview. Speaking of Josh, you mentioned found this pendant of power, I believe, in the pool. People around him. So what do you think of this? Is you mentioned Josh being a bit of a power magnet. Is that crazy that he found another pendant
He's always looking.
just floating around in the pool? Other people thought it might be one of those I don't know,
Chlorine dispenser.
chlorine dispenser. Yeah, okay. Um, what a fun place to hide it, huh?
Well, I was disappointed. We put the marbles in it, we put rocks in it, all kinds of things, and tried to sink it. I spent
Oh,
way too much time trying to sink it in the dark at midnight the night before because that was the original plan, but it just would not stay down. And I didn't want to draw attention. I mean, again, you saw I came up the stairs and Josh was right on my ass. So if I had tried to sink it anymore, he definitely would have caught me in the pool. And then, interestingly enough, the next morning, the pool guy showed up and was putting chemicals in the pool. So that fed into the assumption that everyone was like, it wasn't here yesterday, but the pool guy just came. So he must have put this little chlorine dispenser in the pool and it was just floating around. But we had this great vision. Another behind the scenes tidbit, we had this great vision that they would come down for this challenge. And at some point, somebody would notice it. And we were taking bets on whether someone would jump in the pool. And I said, if Dwayne's is there, he will jump in the pool to get this power. But we didn't have to question it. He went for it. In hindsight, for TV, it was still good TV, but try explaining to people why your 3/4 of your body is wet. Your pocket, maybe, but that would have been great. Couldn't do it. Maybe in a future season.
um, are you surprised that there was definitely three people. I think Chris,
Chris,
Eric
Michael, and yeah,
were
it was
all
all
there.
the puzzle solver people.
All the puzzle. Okay, so were you? I guess it's not too surprising that he wasn't called out more on it during this episode,
Yeah.
just because he was safe and he was also trying to help Eric, right?
Yeah, so I think that the assumption there was that they think they're all on the bottom. I mean, you see that conversation, and Eric's really pushing it. Like, Chris, you just came back in, you're on the bottom. Michael and I are clearly on the bottom. Josh is already saying, like, oh, these people are running the game. I'm on the bottom. So I think the consensus among that group at that point, excuse me, at that point was we need to work together. So this is the power we all know about. So I think he really just lucked out that those are the people that were down there. I
Right.
100% believe Josh would have opened it regardless of who was down there. But I think he really just lucked out. And at this point, I don't know if it's at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. Christopher's obviously so far that we've seen not told a lot of people that Chris G was doing anything. So Chris G now knows where two pendants in the game are. So that's a lot of power on the tails of just walking back in the door. Safe for a round, find a pendant, see someone else find a pendant, reestablishing some bonds. So I think this is a big upswing arc for Chris you're seeing these last two episodes.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of good stuff happening for Chris G these past couple episodes, obviously getting back in the game and all that good stuff. But this vote happened. Well, let's just talk about the missing piece in the Tower of Hanoi. You
So
guys
good.
love to zoom in on those little mistakes, whether it's somebody falling or a piece missing.
Yeah.
Um, how were they even remotely close to getting that piece in
Oh
time?
yeah, yeah. So first of all, I really wish, I don't know if you watch The Amazing Race, but when people screw up, they have that sound that they play. I really think we need to get some kind of like trademark sound. If you rewatch the episode after they say check, you see Christopher set the basket down on the
Okay, yeah,
table next to Chris G. He had walked in the door with the basket right as they checked and won. So it's still feasible if sorry Adam if you're watching, if Adam had made that basket maybe one or two throws less, it's still possible they could have got that piece down there. I mean, it was just picking up one piece and putting it on. So as you
yeah,
see, they don't I think the problem was the lack of communication. Christopher realized immediately that a piece was gone and he thought it was his, I believe, and he ran up. Then he saw it on the driveway, went back and got Adam, but no one told Chris and Eric that that's what was happening. So you see Chris and Eric over there moving them from
yeah.
peg to peg, just trying to figure it out. I think they were damn lucky that Eric didn't drop a whole set of them. But they flew in the door. I mean, as we're calling check, so it was really that close. I don't think the team that won really realized how close it was. In the moment, they didn't even realize why the puzzle was wrong.
Right. Oh, but you say Christopher was aware that they were missing a piece. as the
Christopher, I think, pretty much assumed pretty quickly that that's probably what was happening. He immediately took the basket and ran off. I presume to the kitchen because he came back down and grabbed Adam afterwards. So he took off by himself, came back and got Adam, and then went back up to throw the piece, as you see in the film. So I'm thinking Christopher, if you go back and watch, Christopher actually forgets three pieces. So
oh yeah, I do remember seeing that. Yeah.
Taisha happened to say, hey, Chris. And he got those three in the basket. So I think he thought I must have left one because I almost already left three. And then he came back and realized it was Adam's piece. So you can see that it's the very first piece Adam throws. Christopher throws it back to him and it just takes a roll toward the girls and nobody knows. It's the very first piece they dropped. So it's really a lesson to anyone that's watching to never give up because you just do not know. They had hardly even started their puzzle before the first team was done and they still ended up coming back. So just keep going because you just don't know.
You don't know. And ultimately, Eric is the one who is voted out. Were you surprised at this vote? Were you surprised that there wasn't a shot taken at Rachel? It seems like people are talking about Rachel and Erica being at the forefront of everything, but the numbers are just not there, I guess, for this vote.
So it's unfortunate that the camera that we borrowed for this season um, is really terrible audio for the vote outs because I started doing something this season that I loved because a lot of the information we get every season is from the camera people. And then just us gauging based on what they say in their vote out. So and because sometimes people ask questions about their powers or ask questions about random draws and things. Sometimes people are in there and people would say, must be playing a power. Why are they in there so long? So I started randomly this season asking 2 to 4 people each vote questions. Who is your closest ally? How does it feel to be safe? How do you feel with the captain? Just those kind of things. And people started talking. So hopefully you'll see that in season 5 because we'll go back to our old camera. But I felt I knew a lot more about this season as it was going on instead of having to go back and watch more footage. So you're starting to see some frustration in some people about some of the girls having control, especially the green duo. Josh is starting to come really hard for the green duo, so I wasn't surprised to see that this round. But Eric going, you can kind of see has been foreshadowed for a while. I mean, Eric and Michael and Rachel were the 3 that got votes from the 3 people that stood out in the countdown. The 3 of them came in and thought, if someone's catching a vote this round, who's it going to be? And those are the 3 names that came up. So I think I was not really surprised to see those names coming out. Christopher's name came out the round before, so I wasn't surprised to hear his name come out. I was very surprised. I had not seen what had happened the night before. I was surprised that Chris G wasn't more talked about. I thought he would come in and gun hard for Rachel, and him not doing that this round really caught me off guard.
Yeah.
But you can see in the strategy, he came in and said, "I'm burying the hatchet. It's a fresh game, fresh start." And people say that all the time, but to Chris G's credit, he's doing it. So I think that was a huge pivotal moment in how that vote went. I think he was kind of sitting in the middle of 2 movements. And I think Taisha could have swung either way. So I think really Chris G sat in the middle of that and said, you know what, I am going to bury the hatchet. Now, will it last? I don't know. Things don't last a long time in Ascendance, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's a great point, Nicole, about it seemed like Chris G was very hurt by both Erica and Rachel in his original vote out. And it seemed like the conversation that he had with Rachel was a little bit awkward. I was talking to AJ about that. I thought maybe he would want some revenge, but he's patient here. So I think that's a testament to him kind of easing back in and kind of taking that step down.
And sometimes revenge is best served cold, so we'll see.
Yes, yes. The other thing that I wanted to ask you, Nicole, was um, one of the things during the beginning of the pre-jury, or basically all the pre-jury, was the people that were not connected to the returners and not connected to the strong women in the game for the majority of the beginning of the game getting picked off, and it seemed like nobody was really going against the returners at
Mhm.
all. Were you shocked to see that, or was that kind of like you thought that was going to happen?
So, two things set the tone for the early part of the game, in my opinion. And that first thing, Jim and Matt came in and made such an impression. Every person coming in the room was saying, even the people that weren't voting for them were saying, I really like these people. The next day, it became, oh God, everybody likes these people. They are so charismatic, and I think it's very easy to see that through the screen and through the interviews. Um, Everyone wanted to work with them, but then everyone also realized everyone wanted to work with them. But when Taisha threw that hinky vote on Adam, that spiraled. Um, I think a lot of us that have played online games or live games know it's dangerous to come in and strike at a big name early if you don't have those votes. And I think Billy and Adam's name getting thrown out put the returnees on the defensive early. Hearing returnees' names are going to make the returnees want to kind of group together. And you hear a lot of them say, I don't want to work with these people long term. Especially 1 and 2 did not want to work with 3. There was no interest from seasons 1 and 2 with working with season 3. But you hear Erica say in one of her confessionals, I think last maybe 2 episodes ago, once the first alumni falls, is that going to open the floodgates of it? I think a little differently where Billy going took some pressure off that, right? It took some pressure off the season 3 boys. It took some pressure off the alumni. I think a girl going in Aaron took some pressure off the girls. So I probably, if I was in the game, would have been willing to cut those people a little bit earlier. But I think that hinky vote really set the tone for that first day of targeting the husbands. Chris Jew obviously being a little quiet, kind of sealed his fate. But um, people early game, and you'll see this in Survivor, Big Brother, everywhere. Early games are always formed by what can we relate to on the surface, and on the surface, gender, returnee status, sometimes where you lived or what org you played in. Those are easy things to group by day one. But when you're spending 24, 48 hours, you're up till 4 in the morning talking, bonding. You can see Chris talking about, they were up to 4 or 5 in the morning in the Hollywood gossip. Those 5 bonded, and that's a part of why he felt betrayed, because he felt like, look, we really talked about everything. We're close now. So day one is really hard. You just have to get through it knowing that people are going to easily group together. Another thing I found in Ascendance a lot is it's very easy to say, this is the in group and we're not going to go against the in group. It's easy to have an easy vote. But at some point, the people that are the easy vote need to realize that if they're voting out the easy vote, eventually it's them. And that's what Eric was trying to say in his confessionals the last couple of rounds is at some point, there's nobody in front of me and I'm going to be the next name. And you saw that happen. So I wonder if Eric going home and Eric's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy there will kind of kick some people in the ass and get them to realize, oh wait, shit's going down. Uh, for next season, if you feel like there's an easy name and you feel like you might one day be an easy name, maybe you don't want to let that easy name go. I'm just throwing that out there because every season we see it happen. And then eventually that easy name is you. So throwing that out there, just a tip.
Yeah. And Eric's parting words, he kind of calls out, the girls,
The girls.
the green duo. But Jim also kind of called out the girls, and
And so did Chris G.
but still nobody's jumping on it. I'd be interested to see if this third one is the one that sparks it.
So what do you think from a viewer? Why do you think the girls are the ones that keep getting the call out? What do you think is pushing them to call out specifically the green duo?
I think it. I don't necessarily think it is all Rachel. I think a lot of it is Erica, because I think Erica is perceived to be, whether she is really tight with Michael and Chris and a lot of the earlier season returnees. I think that a lot of the players that aren't on the ends of that perceive her to be. That and her being called out like publicly by Chris G, I think a lot of that puts eyes on Erica as well. Um, and then Rachel has her connections as well. So I feel like those people are the ones that are looked at the most to be in the middle. Whereas I do think that they are, but there's people like Taisha that are not getting nearly as much flack for almost the same thing, right? So
That I guess that was kind of my question. Exactly that. I mean, I think that what are we at? Final 11, maybe? I think there's 11 threats in the game right now. I mean, you could point at any number of people in this game to say, look at these strong connections. This person's name's never coming out. This person rallied that vote. So I just want to point out that even if you're hearing similar names, this is a really strong cast. I mean, it's just the edit can't always show everybody's moves, but you see, I mean, how many times do we flash to shots of people not even in the vote having full on conversations with each other, with the people in the votes? They came to play. I'm just, I cannot stress enough how much you're going to want to be here next week. Um, if you think big moves happen this week, shit's gonna go down next week, and you don't want to miss it. Watch it 2 or 3 times. I need to get my 3.2 cents of YouTube ad revenue for you watching that 30-second ad. I joke. We literally get like half of a penny if you watch an episode worth of ad. I think we make $3 an episode. We're rolling in the dough here, Duke.
it's something. It's something, you know.
It is. I'm gonna get me a Happy Meal next week.
There you go. There you go. Well, Nicole, I think this was a great episode, and I'm excited for the following next week. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Maybe something coming up, or anything that you want to plug before we kind of conclude here?
I will plug Ascendance Unplugged. That is our Indianapolis spring, I say early summer game. Apps should be closing at the end of this month. We have not done our final round of casting, so there are still a couple of spots left in that game. We're hoping to lock down casting. I will be out next week, so we're hoping to lock down casting the week after New Year's. So go to our Facebook page, message me, contact anybody on our prod team if you need the app. We also always encourage women to fill out our alt apps for season 5. It is very hard to have alternate women. And as you see this season, it's all about the girls. That's all you're hearing about. So if you want to be the talk of the town in season 5, if someone drops, please put your app in for season 5 alternates. If you go in our Facebook group or on our Facebook page and search alternate app, or just send us a message, we can get that to you. Please don't sign up if you can't do kind of last minute, because typically people drop 4 to 6 weeks before the game. And so we will be calling you and saying, hey, can you come? We have not had a season yet until this one where we haven't had 2 to 5 people drop in the last couple months. Something about having a partner relying on you got people's asses to the game this season. So sign up for that if you are interested. We also have a website. It's Play Ascendance. I think it's playascendance.com. I should know it, but I don't. It has our apps out there. So you can go out there and you can sign up to be on our list. So when we drop new apps and things like that. Season 6 will be casting soon as well. So keep an eye out, maybe April, May-ish of next year.
Oh,
Play the
season
game before the
6.
game plays you, right?
Play the game before the game plays you. Iconic line. I remember it. But Nicole, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure catching up and talking some Ascendance.
Absolutely. Anytime.